I'm storyteller and author Pleasant DeSpain, and you have a wonderful imagination. Welcome to Pleasant Journeys. Today's story is called The Mystery Artist, and it's the very first story I ever wrote. Let me give you a little background. When I was in the third grade, one of my best friends was named Ricky. And we all loved stories, but he complained he couldn't find any story that had his name in it. So I went home and I made a story for Ricky. And I called it The Mystery Artist, and like a picture book, and I drew some rather crude pictures, but I brought it back to school the next day, and we were supposed to be doing math in my third grade classroom, and Ricky sat behind me, and he wanted to read the story, and he kept tapping me, and finally I just gave it to him, and it didn't take long to read it, but Mrs. Hanson happened to walk back and see that something was going on, and when she saw my little picture book and that we were interrupting the class, she said, Pleasant, come to the front of the room and read your story to the class. And so I did. And the class liked it as well as Ricky. And Mrs. Hanson turned out to be a wonderful teacher. She said, Pleasant, if you made this story up, and I did, it's really quite good. I'm going to get a notebook for you, and I want you to write your stories down and bring them to me, and maybe I can help you shape them a little better. By the way, your spelling needs work, and you're not much of an artist. Maybe you could get some of your friends to draw pictures for you. Well, this was back in 1951. And as an 8-year-old boy, I was now on my way with my love for story. And let me actually tell you the story that I created at that point, The Mystery Artist. So Ricky, he was a mouse, by the way. He lived in a mouse village, and he went to a mouse school, and he loved to draw and paint. He loved colors, and he loved nature. And one day in class, their teacher said, all right, boys and girls, I want you all to get out your good white clean paper. We're going to do some drawings today, and you can color them in. Let's make the sky come alive. So draw what you think should be in the sky. And so all the kids did their work. And then at the end of the drawing time, the teacher said, all right, well, now we're going to show each other what we've done. And we'll just tape all of your drawings all around the room, and everyone can see them. And when the kids went around the room, they saw suns and clouds and birds flying. And then they came to Ricky's. And, well, his didn't look anything like all the other kids and what they drew and colored in. Instead of birds in his sky, Ricky drew 5 flying tennis shoes and then colored them purple. Instead of a sun, he drew a gigantic alarm clock colored green, and he put it upside down so the time was running backwards. And instead of fluffy clouds, he drew a big, giant green kangaroo hopping up and down. And the kids were rather judgmental, and they looked at Ricky's drawing and all those colors, and they went, yuck. "Ugh, Ricky, you're not a good artist." And that hurt. And Ricky went home that day. His head was low. His esteem, of course, had been harmed. He would always sign his name, Ricky, down in the right-hand corner like artists do of everything he drew, but for the next 2 or 3 weeks, he went into his room and he put a sign saying, "Stay out." And every day after school and after dinner at night, he would go ahead and do his drawings the way he wanted to, but he didn't sign them anymore, and he wouldn't show them to anyone. Before long, he had 17 or 18 that he thought he liked. He thought they were pretty good. He just put them in the closet. And then one night, he had a brilliant idea. And early that next morning, before everyone was up, Ricky put all of his paintings into his little red wagon, and he tied the long handle of that wagon on the back of his bicycle, and he rode right on into town, right up to the museum. Now, of course, it was all locked up. Nothing was open yet. And he knocked on the museum door. No one answered. So he just slipped the paintings under the door one by one, and then he went home and went back to bed. And then his mom woke him up and she said, "Oh, Ricky, honey, you have to get ready for school, and today I've made your favorite, chocolate pancakes." So he went to school happy. Now, meanwhile, those who ran the museum, the official mice, opened up the big oaken door, walked in and saw all these strange pictures on the floor. And they looked at them carefully. They had never seen anything like it. And then they lined them all up and they went, "Oh my, why, these are so original. Oh, and quite good. They make one think, oh, and look, they even make me happy." But who did it? These aren't signed. Who is the mystery artist? So they called the local newspaper, and they brought a photographer in, and he took photos of several of the pictures. And the next morning, on the first page of the local newspaper, there was a big question: who is the mystery artist? And they showed 3 of Ricky's pictures. Well, Ricky admitted it was him. And the museum thought, this is great. They framed each of the pictures in a nice, beautiful frame, and they put them on the walls. And they had Ricky sign his name in the right-hand corner of each and every one. And then they had a special field trip at school, and all the kids in school were bussed over to the museum so they could all look at Ricky's works. And from that time forth, everyone said, "That Ricky, he is a real artist." Well, that's the story that I wrote. I made up. And that was so long ago. And then years and years later, actually 45 years later, a publisher came to me because of all my other books and said, "Do you have a little story we could make for school book fairs into a very inexpensive paperback?" And they liked the story, and it's beautifully illustrated by a man named Mel Crawford. And they sold it for 3 or 4 years, quite a few copies. But unfortunately, the publisher went out of business, and the book is no longer in print. The only one of my books that is no longer in print. Well, that's the story I wanted to share. Thank you for listening. Please give it a like if you liked it. Make a comment. I'll be happy to respond. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Below you'll find my website listed with all my other books, which have a direct link to Amazon.com. There are so many stories yet to tell. Another story to tell next week.